All right, Nick, let's talk about Matt Rhule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This is a team that we have grown to love on this channel because of the great job Matt Rhule has been doing at Nebraska. Let's get into it now. Recruitment has ended. The early recruiting cycle came, the late recruiting cycle has come and gone, and now we get to see what is the last remnants of this 2024 class for Coach Rhule. Let's get into the article, read about the last couple of commitments, and we'll talk about it on the other side. This, of course, first article is from College Sports Wire. It says there were only a few notable recruits still set to make decisions, which included Tucson, Arizona Salpointe Catholic defensive end Keona Wilhite, who decommitted from the Washington Huskies last month. After Kalen DeBoer left Washington to take over head coaching position with the Alabama Crimson Tide, Wilhite opted to open things back up and consider other options on the table. On Wednesday, he signed with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, helping the program finish strong for the first full class under Matt Rhule. Before the commitment from Wilhite, Nebraska had the number 18 overall ranking class from 24/7 Sports Composite Ranking. Now, the second one, Nick, is also from 24/7 Sports, and says the connection between Philadelphia and Nebraska has been strong since Matt Rhule took over as the Cornhuskers coach, and the latest piece of it comes in the form of cornerback Kamir Prescott. The one-time Wisconsin commit from Philadelphia, Newman Goretti, announced he is heading to Nebraska next season. Now, Nick, I think this is big by Coach Rhule, able to spread out, get a lot of recruits from a lot of different places. I think he's showing his diversity here and his reach as a big-time recruiter. We know he is big on developing. Curious what your thoughts are on what this means for the Nebraska program going forward. But Nebraska fans, let us know in the comment section below. Everything is done. This class has been buttoned up. You see what Coach Rhule has done in his first full year being able to recruit. What grade do you give Coach Rhule? I think there's a lot of great recruits here. I think it's pretty easy to say he's done a great job, but I want you to let us know in the comment section below, what grade do you give this class gotten by Coach Rhule? But Nick, what are your thoughts on these last two commitments by Nebraska?
So one of the things we talk about on this channel all the time is the smart strategy when it comes to recruiting. We talk about it ad nauseum. Early on in the cycle, you focus hyper local. You get your in-state guys, you get the guys that are from the community, from the area, from the county, and you make sure you secure them, make them solid commitments. And then about halfway through the recruiting cycle, you spread out a little bit and go kind of the region. If you're in Nebraska, maybe you go Iowa, maybe you tip into the Dakotas, maybe you look at, maybe you go into the Illinois, the Indianas, the Wisconsins, places like that, Colorado, right? You kind of expand your region. And then at the end of the recruiting cycle, you go national, right? That's the strategy. Secure local, spread out to the region, and at the end, you go national. That's the best way to be successful as a recruiter. That's how the all-time greats did it. That's what Nick Saban did for years at Alabama. And that's exactly what Matt Rhule has done at Nebraska. And again, having that smart strategy is one thing, but executing on it takes a whole nother effort. And these two latest signees, the enrollees to the Nebraska Cornhuskers football program, is proof that not only is Matt Rhule following the tried and true strategy, he's executing on it as well. And if you look at where the Cornhuskers rank in terms of quality of recruiting class, they're 18, like you alluded to, according to 24/7 Sports. If you look at two programs right close to them, is you have Penn State at 15 and Michigan at 16, right? In terms of talent, that's where Nebraska is. Defending national champion Michigan Wolverines, right? They're right there in the recruiting rankings. 15, Penn State, they win 10 games every year, nationally ranked top 10, top 15 program every year. Nebraska's right there in the recruiting rankings. Matt Rhule has very quickly got this team talent competitive, and he's done it while also following a smart strategy. I think things are shaping up very nicely for the Nebraska Cornhuskers going forward. And look, to be honest, after the Riola commit, you're like, hey, whatever happens after this is gravy. But Matt Rhule and company, they continue to pull in big moves. And I tell you what, Mize, I am just impressed with what Rhule has done at Nebraska. I thought it would be more of a challenge. I thought his strategy worked well at Baylor because it was a little bit of a smaller program, not much attention. He was allowed to sneak up on people. Nebraska, because of the historical greatness, it's kind of hard for them to sneak up on people in the recruiting game. Matt Rhule has proved that, won't stop him, it won't deter him. And this strong finish, this recruiting cycle, is proof that the talent in Nebraska, and before long, I think the performance on the field will very quickly ramp up.
Yeah, Nick, and I want to point out something here. We talked about dominating in-state, of course, Rule 8 Nebraska signees and enrollees here. But let's look at the other states that he's gotten from. Got Florida, got Texas, Colorado, Iowa, Arizona, Georgia, Hawaii, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. That is 13 other states that Matt Rhule has able to dip his toes into and get some solid recruits out of. And I think that just kind of just shows what we've been talking about, the breadth and just the plan that he has as far as recruiting. He's talked about he's wanting Nebraska to be truly the biggest, most top end developmental college in the country. They want to get their own guys, bring them in, be able to develop them, and really produce a lot of high end players. I think that just shows in this strategy. He's able to dominate his home state. He's able to nail a bunch of guys from the big time powerhouses. You see 5 guys from Florida, 5 guys from Texas as well. And then he goes out and just spreads his tentacles out into the rest of the country, is able to find some nice talent there, especially with these last 2 guys. Perfect example of the last 2 signees or enrollees of the class. You see Will Height is a guy from Tucson, Arizona. Arizona, not necessarily known for really high end football prowess. He's able to go there and find a player that is going to bring a lot of value to Nebraska. Then Prescott as well from Pennsylvania. I think they're a little bit better as far as compared to Arizona. There's a little bit more talent in the Pennsylvania region for high school football as well, but a underrated signing, a guy in Prescott, able to bring him to Nebraska as well. I think just Matt Rhule's execution of his plan has really been what's as so impressive to me this recruiting cycle.
I think one thing to end on, I think it's really important. I think Matt Rhule deserves a lot of credit. There has been no program in college football that's been consistently successful this offseason at each stage in the recruiting. Matt Rhule has done it in the early signing period. He's done it in the final signing period. He's won the whales and the big time recruits in Dylan Raiola. He's made the sneaky good moves, taking care of the local guys. We've seen a bunch of different programs around the country. They get 2 of those 4 right, or they get 3 of the 4. Nebraska's the only one that's done a good job in all 4 phases of recruiting, and a lot of credit needs to be given to Matt Rhule and his staff. It's rare to accomplish this, and again, I think it's a great sign for Nebraska going forward.